So I went back to the dean at the College of Engineering, and he said to me, Brent, he goes, why should I let you back in? We have only so many seats here. He goes, if I let a freshman in, they have, whatever, say a 1 in 50 chance of graduating, whatever it is. He goes, we got statistics on people like you. You're 1 in 10,000. Why should I risk that seat on somebody like you? And so I came back the next day and he wouldn't see me. I came back the next day, he wouldn't see me. And so I was sitting on the chair and the secretary said, the dean won't see you. I said, okay. I said, I'll sit here until I figure this out. Then the assistant dean called me in, Professor Carl Larson. And he called me in and he said, you know what? He goes, these are the things you need to do to get back into our school. And, first of all, you got to change your friends. You got to change your location. You got to make this a priority. And he directed me to the Marine Corps. Mm. So after I did a summer program, a 10-week program, what's called the platoon leader class, I came back. I graduated second in my platoon out of everybody. And I went to the community college, got A's on a couple classes, went back to the assistant dean. And he said, okay, we're going to give you a chance. So that's my story.
Yeah, I love that story and how the assistant dean didn't just let you sit there.
Well,
and he's like,
they let me stew.
He's gonna figure it out, but he might need a little bit of pointing in direction too, because they potentially have been through those conversations before. It sounds like they had statistics with some of the different scenarios, but they could also probably see something in you that was like, there is opportunity.
Sure.
And willing to say like, hey, here's a potential path that could get you back on a path of academic success.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much for telling that story and how that's, that change in maybe what you expected the outcome to be, changed into something potentially different. And you ended up getting into the Marine Corps for that program and then getting back into school and eventually then graduating, correct?
Correct.
No,
I did graduate.
Okay.
I think I had like a 2.96 or 2 point something like that. I mean, it was, when I got back, of course, I just started nailing everything. I had the discipline, I had the focus, and that's, but the key here that we'll come back to again later in some of this conversation is the fact that, again, there was somebody there, but they didn't give it to me. It was something you had to figure out. Yeah.
I'm curious about the process that you went through with the Marine Corps, what would you say, 10-week kind of period? And then you said something about discipline. So you mentioned going in, you had to learn new work ethic, or you had good work ethic, but you had to learn new habits of how to study, how to put, priorities in place. You had maybe some of the wrong crowd that you're hanging out with. And then you went into this program and came out of it maybe with a little bit different perception on what it's going to take for priorities and how to set those.
Yeah.
Or what are some of the main things that you learned from the Marine Corps program that you went through?
Well, it was officer candidate school, and it was everything I guess you could imagine you might have seen in some of the movies. I mean, it was, the drill instructor yelling in your face. I mean, it was exhaustive workouts. It was, continuous, very high. They set a very high bar, which I'm very proud of. And the graduation rate was very, it was very severe. I mean, there was a significant number of people did not make it through. And that's a credit to the program in its whole. What can I say? It taught me. It really just taught me, make it. I guess it just sounds just too corny or something, but you make it through the day, make it through this hour. I mean, there's periods of exhaustion, confusion. It's that you just face and said, okay, I got through that. So I'm going to make it the next day. I'm going to make it the next day. I'm going to make it the next day. And then you're with a cadre, your cohort, and you look around and you see how it formed them and you see how it formed you. The camaraderie is, something you can't even measure, because you really see, that physically, mentally, and psychologically, they tear you down and build you up. I mean, like all military programs do, successful ones do, because you become, a unit. I mean, what they do is they shave your head. They're all in the same uniforms. I mean, your identity changes because you become part of that unit. I was in the Bravo company, 3rd platoon, et cetera. I mean, it was, you just become that part of that unit. It goes back to the hockey, it goes back to racing and sailboats. It comes back to who you are, what your team, what role you fill. Because when you're in there, you'll be the squad leader, you'll be the platoon leader, you'll be in charge of these men, and you're out doing, you know, um, exercises. You're carrying 40-pound backpack, you're doing close quarters, high speed marches, and people are coming back, they're getting injured, and they're your responsibility. And why was your man injured? So yeah, it's it's one of those things I guess you got to go through, but it formed me, and it's been with me, my whole life since then, of course.
Yeah, and one of the things that you mentioned that the assistant dean said to you is that you need to change your friends or the people you hang out with,
Yep.
the group that
Mhm.
you're with.
Yeah.
And then you went through this experience of understanding what it's like to have people around you that are working together for a common good and have each other's best interest in mind almost,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I'm curious, but I bet that after that experience, it also helped you choose your friends wisely a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
understand like, okay, now who's going to help build each other up instead of
Mhm.
tear each other down after
Mhm.
that experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that is such an important skill to have throughout life. I know just even as I think back to my first freshman year at Grand Valley and some of the first people I've told this story on this podcast before, but some of the first people that I met at the school, I don't know, it wasn't like, hey, I intentionally was had this list of people like, hey, I'm only going to hang out with these type of people. But the first people that I met are still people, that were like in my wedding and people that I spent a lot of time with. And they were some of the best people to be around me during
Mhm.
that phase of life and just like really good Christian people that it's like, okay, what are the chances that you walk into a large university, right? And the first people that you meet are those people that are a good influence on your life. It
Uh-huh.
doesn't always happen in that way. Sometimes you have to think a little bit like, okay, that was a miss. Let's move on, right?
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
go to this direction. But
Right.
okay, so you graduated, have your mechanical degree, and you worked 3 jobs throughout that process,
Part-time jobs. Yeah.
part-time jobs. And what were those?
Oh, geez. I worked at Garcia's Pizza.
Okay.
And speaking about that, we still have a reunion, a bunch of us that work there.
Oh,
Every
that's
year we go
cool.
down for homecoming. I worked at a store called Backracks. Have you heard of it?
Mm-mm.
It's a men's clothing store.
Okay.
They would have everything from suits to shorts to everything, tuxes and everything else. Which I learned so much about human behavior in that job. It was I remember telling my parents, I said, if I wasn't an engineer, I would stay at Backracks and sell clothes. It was just such a dynamic,
Huh.
interesting experience in my life. And I don't know why, but I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
And then also I worked at a 7-Eleven at a convenience store.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Probably a different clientele there potentially. How to
Yeah.
what about
I mean, I
some-
stacked shelves, swept the floor. A buddy of mine from high school was the manager or assistant manager there.
Okay.
He got me the job. So, anyways, it was, just do whatever he tells you to do, that
So,
kind of stuff.
so then now that you have this degree, you've got some of that work experience, and then you're looking for maybe that first full-time, not just a part-time job, but now you're looking for one that maybe aligns with some of your career goals. What were you looking for? Did you have just something that popped up or something specific that you're like, okay, this is the type of work that I want to chase now?
Interesting, very interesting. So when I graduated, again, it was one of those things where I just wanted to graduate. For me to have a thought about a career or where I wanted to
Mhm.
go, I didn't know. I had an opportunity to become a co-op.
Okay.
And my parents were still living in Illinois. I was going to University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. I got a co-op position up at Consumers Power, and there was a director there, Mr. Earhart, and just again, one of these guys was just in my life, put there for a reason. And I remember he asked me, he said, so Brent, what do you want to do? And I said, Mr. Earhart, I really don't know. And I was terrified by giving him that answer. And he goes, that's the smartest answer I've ever heard. He goes, now you get the chance to discover that. And again, so here, I worked with him and for him for, I think 2-3 co-op sessions. And then after I graduated for a little while, my career took a different path after that. But so it was like, so I suddenly realized, and I think, you hear a lot about that now, people, purpose-driven lives, what's your reason here for? People are trying to figure that out. I didn't figure it out. I mean, I just kind of got to where I was at. I said, okay, good. I'm an engineer. And now let's see what I can do with it.